Hey guys, welcome to this interview, and we have the amazing Kylie Curry here with us. So I'm going to kick things off just by starting with the basics, really. Like I've known Kylie for a few years now. We've crossed paths, but we haven't really had a deep conversation. So this is going to be really interesting. Breaking down and getting into the nitty gritty of the life of Kylie Curry and how she rose to success through a whole heap of different things in her life, which I can't wait to hear. So, first thing I want to ask is a little bit about your background. I want you to give a brief synopsis overview of how you got started and what prompted you to start an online business, and what the life of Kylie Curry looked like before the online space. So I'm going to pass it over to you. It's incredible to have you. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Cole. Excited to be here. Look, honestly, little old Kylie Curry started in this industry about 4 years ago. And look, to be honest, it was more of a hobby in the beginning. I kind of dabbled. I believed that I had to go to school, get a good education, go to uni, get a degree, all of those things to have any success in life. So you can imagine when I fell pregnant at 19, how I kind of fell into that trap of thinking, oh my gosh, all I'm ever going to be is a mum. I'm never going to equate to much. I didn't follow the norm of what everybody needs to do. And that was literally, all I thought I was ever going to be. So I know COVID for so many people was, horrific and terrible. But for us, honestly, it was the biggest blessing. My husband was on the mines, and we knew for quite a long time that yes, the money was great, but the lifestyle and just the time that he was missing and sacrificing for our children, there had to be an end date. And to be honest, we got comfortable. We didn't know that there was another way. We didn't know how to get him out. And COVID was that out for us. Unfortunately, the mine site shut down. He was laid off his job almost instantly. I was working part-time in a gym at reception, which I loved. 3 kids at home, pregnant with baby number 4. So I knew that there was this business at my fingertips that I was kind of dabbling in, had no idea how to build it or how to have any sort of success. So, all of that happened. I said to my husband, right, we've got to make this work. I can't, I had him home for 6 months, and I was like, you are never leaving again. Like, I don't know how we've even survived. I need you here mentally, physically, just everything. For anyone that's a mum knows the struggles that you go through, and doing it 3 weeks on my own was tough. And I just wanted him home. So
So,
invested in a business coach.
so
Sorry.
just on that. Now that's fine, and I want to talk about the role you play as a mother as well, because I know that you got 4 kids, right? Which is absolutely incredible, right? To be able to run an online business, but to also nurture 4 kids is just, I mean, hats off. I mean, it's awesome to see, and I say this time and time again is like when women have kids, they spend all of their time, energy, and attention on their kids through those early years because they are the key nurturer. But what I want to say is, how did you make that transition? What was the main trigger? Was it Benny? Was it your partner that getting him away from work, or was it your motivation being your kids? So what was that primary motivating factor?
So in the beginning, it was getting him home. I could not see in our future him ever going away again. And for so long, he was the breadwinner. He was the sole provider for our 4 children. And I knew that I always wanted to do more. I knew I was put here for more. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I always felt like, being a mum, that was all I was ever going to be. That was what I had to be. I put my eggs all in that basket because, that's what we're told from a young age. When you become a mum, that's your sole priority. That's everything. I lived and breathed my children. And I realized that, before I was a mum, I was Kylie and I matter. And, my goals and my dreams, whilst my children are my number one priority, I can have both. And that for me, is now my why. My why is my children. I want them to know and see and believe that they can do anything they put their mind to. And, they can also bring in an extraordinary income whilst being and providing that nurturing and loving environment for my family.
Yeah, that's magical. And just, when people tell me about their motivation, it naturally inspires me. It inspires me to help more people. And when I look at what a mother does to actually not only nurture their kids, but if they're running an online business, it's incredible because there's a lot of things that need to be taken care of, and we only have a finite amount of time. And being able to navigate, and I use that word a lot, navigate the process of being a mother and actually prioritizing yourself
Mm-hmm.
and putting yourself first. Now, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about like when you had to remove the concept of I need to put more into myself so that I can help a wider audience, so I can help more people, not only my family, but that expands out into the business that you're building. So tell me more about some of the inspiration that you got from not only your kids being your why, but people that you cross paths with. Like, what would be your main inspiration?
Honestly, I think for so many of us that are mums, we use our kids as an excuse. And hand on heart, I've been guilty of that so many times in the past. I have used them as an excuse, but then also in the same breath, I've wanted them to be my driving force and my why. And I had to realize that, they can't be both. They absolutely are my why and they're my driving force. And I want more time freedom with them. All of the things. But I also matter, and prioritizing my business and prioritizing myself was never at the forefront of my mind. And I've really had to hone in on that. I've had to prioritize. I've had to get crystal clear on why I'm doing this. In those moments of, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed right now. I've got so much that needs to be done. Just realizing they are the reason why I do it. And I've connected with so many incredible women in this, in the online world that are mums that I look up to and I aspire to, Jess and Amanda and what we've created in Coach to Success. And honestly, leveraging off routine, automation, all of the things has really, really helped me, and connecting with women that are doing what I want in the space that I want and having enormous success and asking for help. For me in the beginning, I felt like I had to know it all. And my ego was always in the way. I could never ask for help. I could never be honest and say, I'm struggling. Where do I go from here? And I'd sit in this state of overwhelm and nothing would get done. So I really had to lean in on my community. And that's what I love about the online world. Like the community that I have at my fingertips that are there to love and nurture and support me is truly now, something that I just like, it's
Yeah,
just mind blowing.
it's so cool, and it's awesome to hear because I feel the same way about the online space, and I feel the same way about being able to lean in on your community. But what I want to like touch on here as well is I know that you're a coach yourself, and you work in the area of confidence. So let's talk about Kylie Curry's confidence before she stepped into the online space, because I know there was some stuff there that you had to go through to become who you are today. And what I mean by that is you had to mold your own identity before you're able to help people create theirs. So just talk into that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the background of Kylie Curry before, in terms of your belief and how you felt moving into the online space.
Yeah, look, this is deep. I had no belief. There was no self-belief. There was no faith in anything, to be honest. I had quite a traumatic childhood. I went through a really horrible divorce, and all my eggs were in that basket for happiness. I had no idea, no sense of worth. I had no idea who I was. So when that marriage broke down and I realized that there was so much in my childhood that I hadn't dealt with, and all of that come to fruition, I really had to just hone in, lean into it, and do so much internal work, because the person I was back then, I wasn't a leader. I was not a positive person. I had no confidence whatsoever. It was, I say to people all the time, if you met me 6 or 7 years ago, you wouldn't recognize the person that I am today. And I mentioned earlier, I hired a business coach to show me, what to do in this space. And I still remember to this day when she said to me, okay, you're building a brand, you need to get up and show your face on camera. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I had the filters on, I had a face full of makeup, I had my hair all done, and I felt like I had to do all of these things to feel worthy and good enough to be able to even get up and talk on my stories and share what it is I do. And honestly, it has been a continual work in progress. Like, I still have days where, the limiting beliefs and the self-doubt creep back in. But, I have 4 children and 4 girls, which, my turning point was me looking at myself in the mirror and criticizing my body and hearing my 12-year-old talk badly about herself. And that for me was like, wow, Kylie, you are now a mirror for these children. And the way you talk, the way you show up, the way you do everything in your life, they are mirroring that. And that was not a good thing, because I was not confident. I had no self-belief. I really didn't think I was worthy or deserving of much, if I'm honest. And seeing them mimic that, to me, was the pivotal point in my life, where I thought, you've got to dig deep, you've got to heal from your trauma and those past wounds. And honestly, like, my confidence now in what I do, people look at me and they're like, I want to be like that. And my advice to everybody is, you absolutely can. Because like I said, if you knew where I'd come from and how I started 6 years ago to where I am now, if I can do it, anyone can.
Yeah. And, that's so important to understand is, when we actually pull back the curtains, a lot of people on social media are hiding a lot of stuff behind closed doors. And there's a lack of transparency. But with that lack of transparency comes, the relationship building process is more difficult. People need to be able to relate to you, relate to your journey. And what I'm seeing moving forward is definitely, as a confidence coach, and from a sales perspective, I want to move and segue into that now. Like, from a sales perspective, confidence is everything. And, if you don't have confidence in yourself, then you're not going to have confidence in the sales process and the relationship building process. So I just want you to give your perspective on, how building your confidence and your self-worth started to contribute to your net worth.
Absolutely. And, in the beginning, I was a big believer in, fake it till you make it. And, that wasn't working for me at all. I realized there was so much internal work I had to do. And as hard as that was, the freedom that come from that, like, I honestly, I can't even put it into words. And just seeing now where I am and how much I've grown, and just standing in my truth, owning all the parts of me, sharing the shit I've gone through, sharing the struggles and the trauma and all that stuff that I felt like, no one wanted to see. And when I started to normalize the struggles of parenthood and running a business and just everything, normalizing life being hard, I really started to attract the right type of people into my world, because before that, I was attracting fake, because that's what I was. I was trying to be someone I wasn't. I was trying to portray to the world that I had the money and the perfect relationships and the perfect house and all of the things that I thought made me worthy and deserving. And now that I can, I own all the parts of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I share all of that vulnerably and authentically online, the relationships, the growth in my business, like, it's exponential. And more importantly, it's the right type of people. It's people that I want in my world, that I love and respect, and that I learn from. And
it's a beautiful thing. Like, that transition from, being helpless to being the helper is what you're talking about. And now you're in that situation where you're actually giving back to the people around you, your tribe, your inner circle. And that message it creates a rippling effect. I think women in general struggle, and as you know, Kylie, I was a coach for 10 years in the fitness industry,
Mm.
so I understand this process of women struggling with the internal stuff of what's happening on the outside, right? The body changing, etc.
Yep.
Now, I see this time and time again. The confidence side of things is the shift that needs to be made. And people move from being a victim of their own reality, right, to actually shifting and going, okay, I'm going to help people that are feeling the same way. And that is the person that needs to be in that position. That is the person that needs to be the coach, that needs to be the guider, because you're feeling the same way, you've experienced it, and all you're doing is sharing your journey. So it's incredible. And like, I commend you on moving through that process, not only parenting your kids, but learning that it's okay to, feel all the things, right? Like you said
Yep.
previously. But what I want to lean into here and segue into is, as a coach, what would be like the main kind of advice that you would give to somebody that's struggling with things like, these words that get thrown around, and whether they get used, if they get used all the time, or if it's just something that people don't actually have. I don't know. But things like anxiety, things like like that sort of thing, that sort of anger. I want you to talk about like the things that you did have, and how you could, move people through that process, through coaching, through
Yeah.
coaching.
Yeah, I love that you've mentioned that because, anxiety and that's a huge thing. And for me, I am quite an anxious person, but I really had to, hone in on that. And it was more that I was just getting uncomfortable. It wasn't that I was anxious or that I had anxiety. I was just doing shit that I wasn't good at. And it made me get uncomfortable. It made me grow. It made me evolve. And fear is the number one thing that stopped me from starting out in this industry. Fear of failure, fear of judgment. My gosh, as a recovering people pleaser, everything I did in life was based around what I thought other people wanted me to be and who they wanted me to be and what they wanted me to do. And the moment I started to realize that, you know, I am responsible for my happiness. I am responsible for my financial freedom. I am responsible for everything that I have created in my life. That's when things really started to shift. So if I can give anybody any advice in starting out in this industry, it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be hard at times, but choose your hard. For me, hard was checking my bank account when I did my groceries to make sure that my card didn't decline, or being the first person to drop my daughter off at daycare and the last one to pick her up, and turning up to a 9 to 5 that I hated. Like, that was hard for me. And yeah, there will be days where you're uncomfortable. There will be days where it's hard and you're not going to want to do it. But at the end of the day, you are the creator of your life, and everything that you have in your reality right now is because of choices that you have made, good, bad, or otherwise. And you are the only one that can change that. So if you're sitting on the fence, unsure about this whole industry and what it could do for you, and you're letting fear stop you, my biggest words of advice are just go for it. The only
Yeah,
way you fail is if you either don't try or you quit.
yeah, exactly. I totally agree, and I can resonate with that myself. Like, in terms of the experience that I've had dealing with people, especially from a, let's say, a sales perspective, and being in that process, and learning the process of sales, and how to actually you know work the sales process into your favor, and mold it around your identity and who you are, because regardless of what we're doing, we're always selling, right?
Yeah.
People think they're not, but they are, right? So I just want to push into and into the towards the end of this interview, but the main thing I want to talk about here is just some closing thoughts, or maybe some advice from a financial standpoint, because I know that you've, as you said previously, you've had some of those struggles yourself, and what sort of mindset you took into this, and what sort of mindset you have now, and how you could share some potentially some value bombs for the audience, for people that are watching that are like I really, I really want to do this, but I don't know
Yeah.
how. Where do I start?
Yeah, look, my mindset was atrocious. Honestly, I had that victim mentality. Everything was always happening to me and not for me. And I was from a very small town. I was so small-minded. Like I said, never really ever thought I was going to equate to much. So for me, being exposed to this online world was terrifying. It was uncomfortable. It was not normal to me. But I lent in. I learnt from leadership and from mentors that I respected and I trusted and that had the success I wanted. And that's probably, if you can take anything away from this, is don't take advice from somebody that isn't where you want to be, because there's a lot of experts in this industry. There's a lot of fake, which is one of the downsides to social media. We constantly see this highlight reel and it's not reality. And I had to work on my mindset every single day. Positive affirmations, just getting back to basics with gratitude and being so thankful for everything I had in my life. I focused on my health. I focused on myself. So much self growth had to happen for me to step up and be any sort of a leader, because I wasn't a leader. I had that victim mentality. I had no idea about investing in myself. Like, to me, I would hold on to money like it was everything. And so much of that had to change. My money mindset, realizing that investing in yourself is the best ROI you will ever have, leaning into leadership and people that had what I wanted, connections and just all of that stuff really, had to help me grow and develop into the leader that I am now. Because, back then, yeah, I was not a leader.
It's totally true. And I always say, like, it's a journey, it's a process.
Yeah.
And everybody has their, or is in their own season. And, we're all maturing through these seasons as we move forward as an online entrepreneur. And I just want to say that, like, I super appreciate you jumping on here, because, people really struggle to share their own story. And when you learn to be able to do this, and when you learn to be able to be vulnerable, share your own story, and actually, stand in your own conviction, it becomes super, super powerful. So I just want to say, like, I appreciate you, grateful for you being here. But is there any last final words or golden nuggets that you can drop before we close out?
Honestly, guys, feel the fear and do it anyway. I speak to countless amounts of women in this industry day in and day out, and every single one of them say to me, I can't do what you do. And I just, hand on heart, want to express to everybody here that the version that you see of these people that you look up to and aspire to in the online world didn't start out at the version that you see today. And, if I can do it, you can. It doesn't matter about where you've come from, your background, your sex, any of that sort of stuff. If you have the work ethic, the desire, and you're coachable and you're open to opportunity and saying yes to new things, honestly, the world is your oyster. And the connections and the community that you can, meet and have, it's next level. Changed because I just said yes to something that I knew absolutely nothing about, but I didn't give up. So feel the fear and do it anyway.
Amazing. Hey, thanks so much, Kylie. I appreciate you. And we will definitely be talking soon, my friend.
Thank you so much for your time, Cole.